Using MuleSoft's DataWeave, you've got a couple different options for recording and handling null values. And I wanted to show just a few different ways. So on the left, we've got a simple example payload, F name instead of first name, L name instead of last name, and they're all caps. So let's just do some simple DataWeave to get this in a little bit better readable form. So we'll just do payload.firstname or F name, and we will do last name as well. And this is great. And let's do a capitalize on this to take this from the values are all caps, as you can see over here on the right hand side on the output. So let's do a capitalize on these guys. Makes that a little bit nicer to read. And now let's start bringing in, and as you can tell, our middle name is null. And let's go over a couple different ways that you can handle this. So we'll pull out and show our middle name. And that shows null. There's no problems with that. That's great. Let's show it again. I'm just going to keep adding different ways, different options you have in DataWeave to handle these. So I'll just keep putting those out so we can do the same thing. So middle name. And we'll do a capitalize on him. That gives us our error as expected, because capitalize is expecting a string and we've got a null, which is what that says. Now we can check for that. We can have like a default value. If you've not seen default before, we can do something like that. So we'll do a default, say default just empty string. All right. On the right hand side again on the output, you can see we've got our default empty string, and we can change that. You can see it gets updated. All right, so that's one way. The way your parentheses are set up on that function call, though, depending, because you may run into this before in the past or will in the future, but how you set up your parentheses will affect that result. So this will give us an error. All right, so capitalize doesn't do any kind of index bounds checking, so our error is an index out of range. So it's expecting an actually larger string than that. And if you put something in there, of course, then it's good. So if you put something like NA, it'll work, but that doesn't really look good on the output. All right, so that's one way with default. Another way is we can check that field before we actually use it. So this is pretty common for me because a lot of times for my null fields, I don't want to send those across. So we can put some parentheses around that, and we can say, hey, we want to output that when that field is not null. So now it won't even show on the output. We won't have to worry about this being out here and having that handle that around. There's different systems that handle null values a little bit differently, so that may or may not be something that you need to have as well. One other way that you'll see some people check for a field's existence or whatnot is dealing with the question mark. I think this comes over a lot in other different languages that you may have experience in as far as checking for null. And I think that a lot of times people misunderstand that a little bit for DataWeave. So all that does is it gives you a true false. It gives you a Boolean on whether that field actually exists or not. So even though it's null in our payload, it's actually true for that question mark. So it just checks for that existence, not for a null value. So those are just some different ways that you can handle the values, the nulls, and fields existence in DataWeave. So I hope that works for you.